Hey there, Scott.
Hey man, how's it going?
That wasn't Scott Bakula, ladies and gentlemen. That was our favorite foreign policy expert, Scott Horton.
I am a bit of a time traveler though. Just stuck in the past. I never get to leap around. It's just always 2002 for me.
What was the catchphrase? Oh boy. Oh boy. Quantum leap references. The kids love those. So, for the the handful of people who may not know, why don't you tell everybody who the hell is Scott Horton and what do you know about?
Oh, I mean, I'm just a basic anti-government libertarian type from Austin, Texas, Ron Paul guy, and I guess specializing in foreign policy stuff. I've been with antiwar.com since about 2004. Um, I'm an interview show, but also have written some books, and I'm the director of the Libertarian Institute,
Yeah,
which
you
is a
are.
bunch of really great guys
All worthy goals.
and a gal or two.
And get off your lazy butts, people who think you're too cool to read. Go get Fool's Errand, Enough Already, and Provoked, because those are
Yeah.
masterpieces.
Yeah, and all you Bitcoin billionaires out there now, you can afford to support the Libertarian Institute.
That's a good plug to make.
Check out the donate page over there. I
Ye-
saw that Bitcoin's at 123,000, and I know that these people don't know that I had to sell my 12 Bitcoins to pay 1 month's rent in
Oh.
Los Angeles back in 2010, and even last year, man, my lawyer made me get rid of all of my Bitcoins and zero out all my credit cards for tax purposes. So I got nothing, man.
What
All
you.
you people riding that Bitcoin bubble, you gotta donate to those of us who aren't, and
Well,
and yet are doing good work for you, while you're busy doing other stuff.
two things. Yeah, you've got a stable of writers and podcasters, and of course yourself, that really deserves support at Libertarian Institute. And the second thing is, man, you got to get yourself to a hypnotist so he can wipe your memory of that 12 Bitcoin thing.
Oh yeah.
That's going to
Oh
mess
no, it
mess
was
you
more
up.
than that. Oh, it was more than that, man. I learned about Bitcoin in January '09 when I very first moved to LA, and I knew guys who knew how to build a rig and even said, "Oh yeah, no, I'll build you a Bitcoin miner. This weekend I'll see." And then just never happened and never got
Oh,
around to it. And
oh, that hurts.
oh yeah, no, like if I had just yeah. Anyway,
Closest I
if I
ever.
had never cared about this stuff at all this whole time and had just been hodling Bitcoins, then I could donate $1 million to antiwar.com right now. I, and
Heck yeah.
all the better anti-war guys than me, I could pay their writer salary from here on out. Wouldn't that be fun?
Who
Bring
knew?
Will Gray back to life.
Dumb ones and zeros nonsense backed by nothing. Who knew that was going to be the thing?
I remember thinking, I mean, they tried that with e-gold
I
and
know.
whatever. It didn't work. It's
I know.
stupid, dude. They're never going to do that.
It's really weird. It's that first
I
mover
remember thinking,
thing.
oh, it's worth fractions of a penny. I mean, how much is this stuff ever going to be worth,
Yeah, somebody back in the day gave 10 for like a pizza or something. And since the source code is open, you could invent Horton Cone based on the exact same protocol tomorrow, but it's all in this madness of crowds thing. It has value because people think it has value. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever.
Oh, well.
Somebody else's story, not mine.
Yeah.
But I got a nonprofit in case you need to write things off on your capital gains taxes or however that works.
Give him the URL.
libertarianinstitute.org/donate.
Yeah. Go and do and give.
Yeah. And I'm not taking a raise. I'm just paying my guys here. That's all.
Amen. Well, since I've got a foreign policy expert here, I figure the thing we ought to talk about is the movies.
Okay.
So,
I'll watch some.
you saw Warfare, right?
I did.
So, yeah, this movie came out
Your recommendation.
this summer. A buddy of mine saw it and said, Adam, you got to get to the theaters and watch this movie. So I did. And I immediately reached out to you, Scott, and said, dude, watch this movie. I want to talk to you about it. And so you have, and so let's do. What are your
Yeah.
like first impressions of the thing?
Well, I like a good war movie. I mean, I don't know. We're all raised on that stuff. So it was good in that sense. You know what I mean? I thought they did their characters well, and made me also worried about the RPG potentially coming in the window and whatever, you know what I mean? So it was good for all that.
I
Go ahead.
I think it might be maybe unintentionally like one of the best anti-war movies I've ever seen.
Well, that keeps happening. I'm not so sure. So first of all, just to tell the story, the movie is
Oh, spoiler. There will be tons of spoilers, ladies and gentlemen. So just in
yeah,
case,
we're talking about a movie, so yeah, we're gonna have to mention things that happen in the
for
movie.
sure. So, like, if you don't like getting spoiled, pause this, go watch Warfare. You won't regret it and come back. But
Yeah,
otherwise, like the things we're
it's
going
on
to
the
say,
Pirate Bay.
yeah, I don't think it's going to ruin anything for you. I mean, I think you can still enjoy it if you listen to us first. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah,
it's not like a has a lot of surprise twists or whatever. It's just a bunch of well, what it is it's a story of a bunch of Marines and Navy SEAL guys. The SEALs are the sniper team on the outside, and the Marines are essentially just trespassing in this house. They break into this Iraqi family's house. They're in, I believe, in Ramadi
yeah,
in 2006,
yeah.
and they're fighting the Sunni-based insurgency there. And they break in this house. They herd the family into a room, and they use it as their new, temporary headquarters there. And then the insurgents start coming, and then they got to live through that. And some of them do and survive and live to make a movie about it later. And then they show at the end that it's really them who wrote this movie, and they show pictures of all the guys and then the people who played them, and they show the guys like teaching the actors and then go
Yeah,
here and jump that way because this is just how it happened and
yeah.
whatever kind of reenacting thing. And then I think they even say like it was dedicated to one of the guys that died there, and that like this is a matter of honors, like telling the guy's story or
I believe
something like that.
they're dedicating it to the guy you see at the end in the wheelchair,
Oh,
the
okay,
sniper, Elliot.
okay.
I believe if I haven't messed that up.
So yeah, I mean, look, the movie is good at putting you in their shoes. Like, man, that would suck to be in that and whatever. And then I don't know. There's a movie just like this that I have no idea what the name of it is, but it's a bunch of guys in Afghanistan, out in the mountains in a fire base out there, and they're in the valley at the, in this pit surrounded by mountains on all sides, and the Taliban just come in waves, or local insurgent fighters anyway, just come in waves over there and attack them. And that was also based on a true story of a bunch of guys who lived through that. And it's the exact same kind of thing. You get to know all the guys, and then you think, God, geez, that's the one that got blowed up that time, huh? That sucks. But as you watch the thing, and then at the end they fly away, leave the fire base behind, and then yeah. So my original immediate take in both of these movies is, what a stupid war.
Yeah,
Like, how
for
can
sure.
anybody demand that these guys go there and do that? Like, how idiotic is it that they're breaking into this family's home in this neighborhood? They're surrounded by people who they're supposedly liberating these people. Is that what somebody said? And now
Right.
they're just killing them and blowing up the neighborhood, and fighter jets, doing sonic booms low over the street to protect our guys, but they're also blowing the eardrums out of little kids too, and whatever, all the terror of the whole damn thing. And same thing for in Afghanistan. They're not in a civilian home. They got their base there, but they got their base way out in the middle of nowhere, way up in far northeastern Afghanistan, deep in the mountains, where it's like, there is no state of Afghanistan here. There never has been. This is just tribal territories out there. People don't even know. They've never been to Kabul. They've never heard of Kabul. They think last they heard, the Soviet communists were running around. And I got to tell you, man, like, I've read this, but I also have met so many guys who fought in Afghanistan. Like, I've personally heard this story, I swear to God, like at least 4 or 5 times personally, on top of the ones I've read, where people said, Matthew Ho is one, where they're walking around and the locals assume that they're Russians because they have no idea that the Russians left, and they have no idea that the Americans came, even though there's like a full 12-year gap between the two.
Helicopter's a helicopter, right?
Yeah, I don't know. White guy's a white guy. what are you Ruskies doing here? And they're like, what? No, we're the Americans, dude. We're the ones who helped you fight the commies. And now we're here to help you even more and better than that. And they're like, I don't know. You look like Russians to us. You look like occupiers to us. And so, but then like, what is that like that's the warmer than 100 IQ take on the thing. It's like, geez, the futility of war. But like, you're supposed to just like it and be like, wow, what an adventure.
Well,
Loud banging sounds and explosions and
well, that's
stuff. Like,
why.
I don't know. I'm a boy. I like it too. I just said I like it too. You
That's
know what I
why.
mean? But I think most people don't probably get it much worse than just the surface take,
That's
I don't
why
know.
I
That's
love this warfare movie, because they break all of those myths that we all got when we were teenagers and playing cowboys and Indians and war. Like, they start the movie with these these SEALs psyching themselves up to go on this mission by watching this 80s era jazzercise video with all these hot
yeah.
chicks working out to Steve Winwood's Valerie, and they're loving it. And then you cut to them in the middle of the night just walking in formation through this neighborhood, and in 1 second they're cracking each other up by, like, one guy will get his buddy's attention and then put his rifle down and do a jazzercise move and crack his buddy up, and then 2 seconds
Mhm.
later one of them says to the other, yeah, we like this house, we're gonna take it. And so what do? They sneak in, they kidnap the families, put them on the floor, and then
Yeah.
stupidly they have to, like, use a sledgehammer to bust a wall down between the houses, split up into two apartments, one on the ground, one on the floor, and so they immediately alert all the enemy to the fact that they're there by using a sledgehammer to knock the stupid thing down in the middle of the night. And it's just all these contrasts. Like, I thought it was brilliant how in the first act of the movie they showed the camaraderie between all these guys and their proficiency. They're on the radio, they're doing their thing, they're using their charts and their maps and their lingo and high tech. And then one jihadi throws a crappy grenade in the window and all hell busts loose. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're not in control of anything here. And you see the psychology of the soldiers just go to crap, and all of their techniques all of a sudden start looking stupid and useless and like a waste of time. And and then a bunch of gore and horror and mayhem occur, and at the end, this family and everybody in that neighborhood just gets their house wrecked. Who knows how many die? And when the Bradleys stream away, 12 or 15 jihadis just sort of slink out into the street out of their cubby holes, like nothing positive was accomplished, and you got your guys really hurt, and one of the interpreters gets blown to bits. And it's like, what do you? And again, it's not like a preachy thing. There's no narration. They just
Yeah.
show this operation from the perspective of the guys that were in it, and you're falling in love
Yeah.
with these guys, and it's just so stupid.
Well, I got to say, man, all of what you say is right. But to me, it's far from clear that the guys telling the story, who again are clearly, the screenwriters here, this is their movie. And it's far from clear to me that they're trying to send any kind of anti-war message at all. They're just telling the
I
story of what
agree.
happened that day.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean? So like, yeah,
That's kind of
in
what
other
makes it
words,
so great.
yeah. Well, although, yeah, I believe me, I agree with you, and I saw it the same way. But I wonder, in the unintentionally deep meaning here, like how many people are going to see it that way. Although, like the consensus is now that war was completely stupid and we shouldn't have done it. And so if people see this in that lens, you know what I mean, going in, that like, okay, here's a microcosm of that war. And you can tell these guys have no idea who they're fighting either. You know what I mean? It's like you're meeting the Germans in the field somewhere.
They,
This is some
oh
crazy
yeah,
thing.
it's just, yeah, all the locals. What do they call them? They call them MAMs, military age males.
Right.
It's like everybody's an enemy.
Yep.
But I think you're right. Like, we don't know if they meant it to be anti-war, but they were so honest about the screw ups. Like
Yeah.
the one captain played by James Gandolfini's kid. he gets the morphine upside down and just stabs himself in the thumb because they don't really know what they're doing. And they show the breakdown in command, and like they show all their procedures just look so stupid, but that's all they
Yep.
got. And so they just
Yep.
do the thing. And I have to think they have enough self-awareness, especially this many years later, that, yeah, this was just us. We got told to go here and do this, and this is what it was in all its awfulness.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I could just see it as a heroic adventure too. Like Full Metal Jacket is supposed to be an anti-war movie, and it was a huge boost for recruitment, especially for the Marine Corps.
Is that a
'Cause,
fact?
of course, it was a huge recruit, and unintentionally, right? That's not what he's going for at all. But
Wow.
Scorsese, right? Um, and the movie is no, it shows the challenge of what it takes to be a Marine. Can you sit there and deal with the stress of this guy screaming in your face and also climb the big climbing wall and run through the tires and all the rest of the obstacle course and show what it takes to join the brotherhood of the thing? And then so people joined up by the thousands and thousands after that thing, you know? And so, and it was clearly, I mean, hell, the second half of that movie, they're fighting in Quezon, and it's like, they're getting sniped. And at the end, they heroically kill the young teenage girl who's doing the
The
sniping
sniper, yeah.
and are like, this sucks. Like, it's the worst thing in the war. That movie is like,
And they show
war
the
is hell with a peace sign and all that. And everybody just got the fun of it all, man, was all anybody saw. And it was an adventure to go have.
You're breaking my heart, dude. I mean, they've got that scene in the helicopter where Modine is watching the gunner just mowing down rice paddies full of women and children. He's like, how can you shoot women and children? The gunner
Easy.
gets a big grin.
Just
It's easy.
don't need 'em so much. I used to play that as part of my intro on the show.
Oh my Lord. That should not be a recruitment film vehicle. Maybe maybe I'm all screwed up here.
Yep.
Well, anyway, I am hopeful. And go see that movie, even if we've ruined it for you. Warfare. You can rent it on the Amazons and the Apples.
It is a good movie. And listen, I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for those guys.
Of
I know a
course.
lot of veterans of that war. I know people who are, my whole life I've known people who are in the Army.
And they're throwing these guys in so young too. I mean,
and yeah, dude, and
they don't know. They don't know. Oh, another thing they did that was just so
I saw
dumb.
a thing yesterday about what the hell was I watching yesterday where the guy talked about on September 11th he went and joined the Army. Oh, it was the Tucker Carlson interview of the guy in the cowboy hat. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. It's a good interview with the guy. And he interviews him. And the guy's talking about how him and his brother or him and his best friend went and joined the Army or went and signed up when they're 17 on September 11th. They went and signed up to go. And it's like, I've heard this story so many times. And I always say to myself, at least, the thing I never hear any of them say, no one ever addresses this part of it. That, did you think that America did not have a standing army on September 11th? And that we needed you in order to have enough manpower to go and hunt down one airliner worth of terrorists hiding over in Afghanistan somewhere?
There's something.
That's what you really thought. Oh no, some guys, 20 guys had to hijack our planes to even have weapons to use against us. I guess we need 100,000 new recruits to launch a global crusade against all of Islam.
There's something.
Jesus Christ. These guys are Bill Clinton's guys, and there ain't that many of them.
There's something. Well, first of all, nobody knows all that. Second of all, there's just something so primal.
It always shocked me back then that, like, look, you knew that we had the world's most powerful military. Even if you didn't know that's why we were attacked on September 11th,
yeah, but
at least you had to have known that we already have a 1 million man standing army, dude.
Yeah, but no, we don't.
Powerful navy.
Yeah, but no, we don't. Because no, we don't, Scott. Because if we had all that, how in the world could they have possibly knocked down the Twin Towers? Obviously, The thought
America's a
crossed my
sleeping
mind.
giant.
The thought crossed my mind all the way over in Los Angeles. I'm what, 30,
Yeah.
31, and I'm like, geez, maybe I should go sign up. Oh yeah, I already did that thing where I told him I was gay, and so
Yeah,
like,
that was a great story. We should do a whole show on that funny story.
I'd be happy
But
to.
but look, man, no, I've met a lot of dudes and I've heard a lot more anecdotes like that too, where it's just, and nobody ever says. And I thought to myself then, oh my God, we must not have a standing army. And now we better build one. And I better be part, like no one ever says it like that. But it's like,
That's what's in there though.
how
Something
could
like
any
that.
new recruit think there'd be any Al Qaeda left for him by the time they got to Nangarhar province? You know what I mean? Don't you know that Donald Rumsfeld would have already let them escape by then?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so criminal what happened. And as I'm watching this warfare movie, I mean, I'm an American. My heart is with our boys, obviously, but
Yeah, of
I
course.
know where they're at, and I know where America is, and I know how stupid this was. And so when it's all over and the Bradleys have leveled the neighborhood, or at least the top floors, and they're driving away,
Mhm.
and the jihadis are slinking out of their corners with their AKs, I'm like, yeah, man, if I lived in Ramadi, that's who I'd be. It'd be
Yeah.
it'd be me and my
When everybody
neighbors.
knows too that here, what were they even doing? They're fighting for the Shiites to give them control over this majority Sunni city. And this is all in '06. And then
Yeah.
as everybody knows, in 2015, the Islamic State took the city back over again. And so the whole west of the whole east of the country, Baghdad included, and everything belongs now to Iran's best friends in the Dawa Party and Supreme Islamic Council and so forth. And then the entire west of the country that was under the control of secular Sunni Saddam with the clean shaven chin is under the control of the Bin Ladenites from, at least like mid to late 2004 all the way through 2018 and the end of Iraq War III. So if you fought in Ramadi and you thought you won it, you thought that, your buddies that died in that thing and you barely made it out alive, and you go, well, at least we did save that city from Al Qaeda, though. And yeah, until Barack Obama takes their side in Syria next door and the caliphate blows in there. And then it's the same thing again.
I
And
was
now, and of course, we went back. We did eventually, USA did eventually go back to Ramadi, back to Fallujah, to Crete. And am I lost? It says network connection error.
oh, you're fine.
Now it says I'm okay again. I don't know.
You're just hallucinating, man.
But nah, man, that thing was lying to me. I'm not lying.
Um,
But yeah, no, and then it took, America did then side with the Shiites again, including the Iranians' actual forces on the ground to liberate Tikrit and Fallujah and Ramadi and Samarra and all these cities after the Islamic Caliphate, the Bin Ladenite Caliphate had been built up. And just what a waste. And anyone could say, I was joking at the time when ISIS was rolling into Mosul, I says, if only Uday and Qusay were here. But they're dead now. So instead we have to help Qasem Soleimani kill these guys. Great.
after I saw this warfare movie, I hit Wikipedia, the font of all wisdom and knowledge, Scott.
Oh yeah, they got a lot there.
And this event was just a normal mission, and it took place on in November '06, just a few days after apparently some U.S. forces blew up a bridge with a bunch of civilians on it or something. So, like, if the troops knew that, they should have known that, people are going to be a little riled up. And then again, their procedures. They knocked down that wall with the sledgehammer, causing all sorts of ruckus. And then they stand in full view of the windows half the time with their claymores pointing outward from the balcony in full view of everybody, because that's protocol. And it's like, and again, the first act of this movie, they're all so bored, just procedure, having a good time. This is what we're doing. Like they're untouchable. Like people aren't obviously going to be coming to. Anyway, I think it's a great anti-war movie. I don't know, man.
I mean, to me, almost all war movies are anti-war movies, if you take them the right way.
Right, right.
Um, but but yeah, it's, I guess, not to be just dark cloud guy, but I just look at the part where, like you're looking at the dark cloud and other people are looking at the silver lining, that like, wow, the guys who survived that, no one's ever had such a tight friendship as those blood brothers do now after their heroic teamwork and sacrifice
Sure,
against the insatiable
sure,
enemy and all, which is true too,
sure.
right? Like those
Yeah,
guys do love each
yeah,
other like brothers
of
now.
course.
So like, as I really don't like Chris Hedges, but a long time ago he wrote this really good book called War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. Just kind of a clumsy title, but then it's like, yeah, that's what it's about. So people really like war because it's really interesting, man. You know what I mean? It's got
It'll force you to
it's
live
got
in
everything.
force you to live
Especially
in the
it's got
moment for sure.
excitement. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
you will be
Yeah.
living in the moment. Do you have an opinion about like I was just so shocked. They got to hump in every bullet that goes and feeds those weapons. And maybe they weren't super accurate, recreating the firefights, but I just couldn't believe how much spraying ammo they were doing. Obviously not
Yeah.
taking any kind of good aim. And again, it was the guys who were there that made this movie though. They were walking them through it. I wouldn't believe they'd let them look goofy if do you think they just really spray ammo like that when they know they're not aiming at anything?
I really don't know. I mean, you have suppressive fire
Sure, but this
to
was different.
allow
Yeah.
other guys,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
cover me while I do this thing and that, whatever. But I'm no soldier, man. I can't comment on specifics there, but I do understand. I take your meaning. It's, like the whole thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando. We're like, man, it's a good thing he has a bullet factory inside that M16 of his.
The same with every John Woo movie. Turns out a
Yeah.
Glock 19 just has like 1,000 bullets in it. It's crazy. Um, all right, man. Well, let's move on to like what's going on.
Oh no.
I'm so tempted to ask you about the whole Epstein nonsense, but first, can I ask you? We've been so distracted with horrors and elsewhere in the world, but what do you think's going on with the Russia-Ukraine thing?
Well, the Russians are winning, man.
Are they?
They're taking more and more territory all the time.
So, do you think it's
The
just going to be a slow creep, and then we're going to end up arming the other side, and then it'll just get hotter and hotter? Or
I don't know what's really going to happen. Trump said, "Oh, we're going to do this thing where we're going to give a bunch of, we're going to sell a bunch of weapons to the Europeans, and then they're going to give them over to the Ukrainians." And then I read a story this morning where the Europeans are like, nobody asked us, and no, we're not doing that. If we're sending weapons from Ukraine, we're going to buy them from ourselves and each other, our own countries, and each other, and not you. Just goes to show how corrupt this whole thing is. The way that they treat this is just all about who's going to get paid for the weapons to use in the damn thing. But then everybody knows it's not going to make a difference. It could, I guess, prolong the thing. I don't know if anybody knows how many men the Ukrainians got left that they can throw into this thing.
yeah, between
The way the experts talk about it is at some point, and I'm going to actually interview Danny Davis this afternoon. At some point, the Ukrainian military will, just as they call it, break, and there won't be enough force to hold the line essentially anywhere, and everything's going to break down. And at
um,
that point, the Russians then will walk around wherever they want. So in other words, they're moving forward slowly, but the point is not so much to hurry up and take territory, but to fight a war of attrition against the Ukrainian military until it's so weak that the Russians can then do whatever they want.
I got
And
two,
I don't know how long that's going to take. I mean, we're having this conversation 3.5 years into the damn
yeah.
thing. And I mean, this outrage should have been brought to an end a long time ago. But then if you're going to ask me what's Trump going to do about it, the answer is he can't do anything about it. It's too late. The Russians are winning, but they're short of their goals. And so they're not going to stop. And it's just too damn bad. And the Ukrainians, by the way, they're not broken yet. And they clearly are not going to give in until they absolutely have to. And
So
so
I
that's where
got
we're at, man.
I got two questions that pertain to that. Ukraine not being broken, and all those people you've interviewed and talked to. Do you have any insight on the percentage of military aged males, and that's a wide gap in Ukraine, all the way up to 60 or something. How many have been made casualties? How many have just fled the country? You
I
know,
really don't know, man. It's millions of people have fled. It's certainly high hundreds of thousands of casualties, maybe more than 1 million casualties, certainly more than 1 million on both sides. But
so
even I would say chances are by now that they've had well over 500,000 deaths. I know a lot of people cite high statistics. I tend to always go with the lower end
sure,
type estimates.
sure,
You have, in this case too, virtually all the civilians were able to flee. So you have, hundreds of civilians killed a year rather than thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and this kind of thing, because it's military age. They're conscripts on both sides. So what the hell? It ain't fair, but it's armed men fighting armed men in desolate ghost towns where everybody else already got the hell out of there or died trying. So, um, so it's essentially armed combatants fighting each other out there. That's like the silver lining on the thing kind of way to look at it. At least it's not the kind of civilian bloodbath that you see in the Gaza Strip, for example.
and
Um,
what about the introduction of drones on both sides?
Well, it's a murder fest over there. It's completely crazy, man. If you watch the war on the Telegram channels and stuff, which I recommend people do, at least, from time to time, get a look at how things are going over there, where, it's like World War One with ditches and trenches and artillery and tank rounds plus drones. And so, I read this thing, man. It was so sad. Some dumb English kid. It's like got it all in his head how he's going to go and have an adventure over there as a warrior and all this and go and join up with the Foreign Legion fighting for Ukraine. And the first thing that happens when he gets there is there are guys pinned down and already wounded in the tree line. And he's got to cross a field to get to them. And him and this other guy go, and the other guy's the one telling the story about what happened. Is the first day he gets there, they dress him up, put some boots on him, tell him, okay, take this ammo or medical kit or whatever and run it to the guys in that tree line over there. And on the way over there, a drone comes and zaps him and blows his legs off. And the kid sits there and dies. The other guy tries to drag him off the field and he dies in the process anyway. It's like, this is his big adventure in the war. It's like 2 minutes into the thing. He's running, not even, he's on the field running for 30 seconds or something. And there's a drone chasing him
Good
and
God.
gets him. And just, yeah, dude. And then, so that's just one little anecdote out of 1 million.
The pro-war
pretty
guys, the pro-war guys who get like a half a chubby for all this tech, they'll sometimes say comments like, pretty soon it'll just be drone versus drone out there, and you won't even have humans. And I'm like, well, that's not how war works. You occupy territory with troops, and so the drones are going to be finding people, not other drones.
Right.
These are missiles passing
The
each
first
other.
one, then the other. Yeah.
Yeah,
Defeat the enemy's
sure.
drones and then the men. But yeah, that's exactly what it's about. So,
My
yeah, it is a whole new era of war for real. It's not like just reapers and predators killing Pashtun civilians down there like in the Afghan war or something like that. It is a whole new era where you got dudes with Nintendo controllers flying these drones at each other all day out there, and they're coming in huge numbers. There's little ones, with small explosives attached to them.
My guess is all that nonsense about UFOs seen over the skies in New Jersey, a few months ago when that was all everybody could think about. I assume that was all manufacturers making presentations to the military about drone technology.
Probably, yeah.
And
it was certainly the military one way or the other there, yeah.
What a world.
Remember they said, there's an Iranian mothership off our coast. They're launching a war against us, dude. Yeah, that Zionists are lying when Zionists are using syllables. Get the hell out of here.
All right, man, I can't help it. What the heck do you think's going on with Trump and these Epstein things?
Well, they were friends for a long time, man. Like, who knows? I think he's probably more afraid than he should be. If there was anything on him in his FBI file, they would have just leaked that
long ago. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe he's afraid of Ghislaine Maxwell bearing her true soul in front of the Congress or something like that, which I think they're trying to subpoena her and work that out now. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but
If she was
um,
going to say anything, she'd get Epstein.
I mean, my real assumption is that it's all just about protecting Israel. They say, and I just got to tell you, like my gut feeling, because Trump is acting weird about it, but
Super weird.
at the same time, when he was under investigation down in Florida, Epstein,
Yeah.
Trump went and talked to the FBI without a lawyer and just went down there and threw the guy under the bus and was like, I don't know exactly what he told him, but he wasn't afraid to talk to federal police about the guy.
This is in
Uh,
2014 or
I don't know.
thereabouts. But
I don't know.
the Florida one before. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think this is probably would have been Bush years, W. Bush years.
Oh, way
So
back then. Okay.
earlier. Yeah. But I'm really not the expert on this story, by the way. I mean, I got to defer to Daryl Cooper and Ry Dawson and others who have really done a lot of writing about this and stuff. I never have.
I don't
So
know.
I don't
Epstein's
know.
career looks pretty solid to me. I mean, I don't see any. Looks pretty
Yeah.
normal.
You know, so I think it sucks because there are really just a lot of open questions and speculations. There's a thing at Wired Magazine that showed like a heat map of all the cell phone location data. And they didn't publish the names, although they could connect the names, but they're like, they don't want to incriminate people because they don't know exactly what people were doing there. But there were a lot of people, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds or more going to that island down there. And there are 2 islands that he owned. And they show, well, here's the helicopter landing pad, and here's the small marina where they take boats across, and then here's location data, cell phone data at the weird temple on the island. Here's just at the beach, and here's at the guest house, and here's this and that, and whatever, and just showing a lot of people and showing all the places from the United States where they came from, including Austin, Texas, but then also especially like Aspen and Martha's Vineyard and Washington and all these, powerful player places. And
Yeah,
so you can't just say, okay, yeah, because they're all going there to take part in child abuse rituals. You know what I mean? Like you don't know that, but it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to some guy's fancy private island, it seems like if it's just for sun and surfing and whatever, then everybody would know that. But if this guy is like some weirdo with some weird temple and, very underdressed, underage children running around and whatever all the time, like they had to have known that. I mean, as Daryl points out, his plane had been nicknamed the Lolita Express. That was what they all called. They all knew. John McCain's wife said, we all knew what he was up to, but everybody was afraid to say anything. Why would they be afraid to say anything? So you get the idea. There are a lot of people going there. And then,
so here's the thing.
in fact, if you have important people going there and not doing anything, then that actually helps aid in the cover up because it gives an excuse to the authorities to not, well, they're innocent people we don't want their names wrapped up in this thing. But meanwhile, like, why is Bill Clinton going to this secret private island out there? You know what I mean? Probably to hurt someone for fun because that's how he is.
And then, the other side of it is even more disturbing. What's the point of using the underage girls? And why is Epstein's huge apartment in Manhattan wired up with video and sound? And what are all these terabytes of data
Well,
being
for
carted
no
out?
reason, apparently, dude.
But that's the whole thing. Like, so it has to be that somebody has thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of J. Edgar Hoover style blackmail material on, not just Israelis, but like our whole entire upper echelons of government and media and power, corporate. There must have thousands. We don't live in a democracy, is my point. We live in a blackmailocracy, and we cannot let this go.
Yeah.
We cannot let this go because this is the source of our dominion.
Yeah.
This.
And now, look, by the way, so from my understanding, like none of the accusations against him down there in Florida have anything to do with like inviting other powerful people over, right?
Right.
But then when you look at the mansion in New York and you're like, wow, he's got all of these really powerful people around there all the time. And then plus he's got this huge ranch out in New Mexico. We know Bill Richardson and other people are going out there and
Yep.
whatever. These two weird islands. And where everybody knows about his reputation, but they're all hanging out with him anyway. And, you know, even after he's convicted, they're still palling around with him. And he's also, it seems like he's doing espionage stuff.
Yeah.
You could say, like, what if you're suspicious at all, then how do you explain, you know, like, even if you're not suspicious, I don't know, whatever. He's palling around with academics in engineering and computer sciences and whatever, you know, at the highest level all the time, which is seems like kind of thing spies would do. And when you're dealing with engineers, then getting them good and laid is something that they're very interested in probably, and that then he could use as a lever of control over them.
Yeah. He
Well,
got
you
tired
know,
of politicians. He'd done all of those, so he was getting into the future big tech leaders, you know,
yeah.
startups and academics, and
And it's the thing about the wired up, the New York mansion. It's the feds who say that the place was wired for video and sound. And they're saying, oh, yeah, no, just because he was filming himself all day. He wasn't blackmailing anyone,
I don't think
you
so.
know. And people say a client list, like he was a pimp and just taking calls, you know, something like that. But maybe not. Maybe he's just throwing parties and getting people laid at parties. And then the next morning they wake up with a hangover and a note that says, hey, dude, that chick was 16. Uh-huh. Got you. What's your
The
bank account number again? And
right.
your password, dude?
And what are you into that I want to give you orders about?
Yeah, man.
So yeah, the flight logs and the quote unquote client list. I'm like, these are almost red herrings in themselves.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Washington D.C. or London or Tel Aviv or all three, someone's got thousands and thousands of hours of blackmail video.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
we need to know. We need, or to come out and tell us, walk us off the ledge and say, no, you got this all wrong. Here's everything we know, and I
Yeah.
can see why you think it's exactly what it looks like, but no, no, no.
Yeah.
Let me prove it to you.
I saw a clip on YouTube of Chris Tucker, the guy from the movie Friday,
Yeah.
being asked about being on there. And he was like, yeah, dude, I was on that guy's plane. I was with Bill Clinton. And it
Oh
was
my
like this
God.
humanitarian trip to Africa. And I didn't know whose plane we were on, you know, but then like later I found out, like, yeah, that is who it was. And then, but you could tell, like, whatever, Chris Tucker didn't hurt nobody on that plane. You know what I mean? And I don't know if they asked him about were there any little kids on it or what. You know what I mean? They didn't really get into specifics, but you know, he did verify that, like, well, those lists were real. He was on that plane, but like, it's also true that that doesn't necessarily immediately
No,
equate
of course not.
to crossing lines. Like
With
with Bill Clinton, I already know that he's a face biting rapist, you know, uh, child massacrer,
you just think about how a
scum
black
of the earth. So I wouldn't put anything past him.
yeah.
But like, you know, the rest of these people, I don't know what it would take to get somebody to be so cruel to hurt a little kid. You know what I mean? You got to already be in some weird power place in the first place, not just some actor from Hollywood. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. Think about, like, there are obviously going to be a whole bunch of innocents caught up in this, because think about how a blackmailer would operate. He'd cast this enormous wide net and try and invite everybody he possibly can, because we're going to do a
Yeah.
charity thing, or I'm going to fly you here. It's just some philanthropic thing. And then you start, you know, flashing signs, putting signals out. Who's receptive to, you want to take the next step? And people that are innocent, you know, they just go home and they don't do the after midnight part of the Diddy party, you know, so to speak, the Epstein
Right.
version of that. So yeah, of course, there's going to be tons of innocent people that have flown on planes, but
Yep.
that's why we can't let this go. It
Well,
needs to be.
Trump supposedly ordered them. Well, he used the word pertinent. I mean, I think they can't just release all the grand jury information. I don't know exactly what the rulings are going to be about that, but Trump ordered them to release all the grand jury information about the thing. To try to appease people. Somebody told him, hey, man, all of your threats against people that you won't love them anymore if they keep caring about this aren't working. So you're going to have to
No,
figure out something else.
no. I hope the Epstein didn't kill himself meme, and I hope it never dies. It's just too important. It's I'm even mad about the people that are mostly upset because it's underage girls. I mean, yeah, obviously that's really, really, really bad. but it's what they were using that for, to control the whole world. The most powerful people in the world, to get them under their thumb. Or again, that's what it looks like. So I don't know.
Certainly does.
I'll bet against us ever knowing, just because I'm super black pilled on just ever getting any answers out of the wretched swamp. But what do I know? What else you got to tell me and my loyal listeners? What do you know in the world? What's your favorite anti-war movie? If it ain't Warfare, and it should be Warfare. It's pretty great.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a real old one with Jim Rockford.
Oh yeah,
James Garner.
yeah. The Education of Emily.
That's the one. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Just look straight down the camera and say, "Yeah, war's stupid. Don't get anywhere near it."
Yeah, I was a big fan of Hamburger Hill and Platoon and all that in the 80s when I was a kid. I grew up on all those anti-Vietnam War movies.
Yeah.
Hamburger Hill, I remember especially, was like, I think the worst one. Jacob's Ladder was pretty crazy, but
yeah, that was a great movie.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I would, try to direct people's attention back to Gaza. I think the subject got changed to the war with Iran, and then quickly to Epstein, and even the war with Iran really overshadowed what's going on in Gaza. But, I look at antiwar.com every morning. And by the way, for people who think I'm the one who puts that page together, you're wrong. It's Dave DeCamp and Eric Garris primarily, and of course, Kyle Anselo and the others who work on putting that page together every day. And Jason Ditz, of course.
And Dave does a great daily half-hour summary of...
Yeah, he does. But if you look there every day, it's, as you probably, may have heard me say, that it's essentially a Waco massacre over there every single day. And today it's 87 people. It's the Waco massacre. That's the death toll from yesterday. The day before that, it was like 130. And it's like right around a Waco massacre, give or take a Waco massacre or I guess a Waco massacre, give or take 10 or 20 on any given day, every day. And I think, there's a cognitive dissonance and a bunch of assumptions and whatever that prevent Americans from seeing it very clearly. I'm reminded of, if Saddam didn't attack us on 9/11, then why are we attacking him then? So he must have done it, or else we wouldn't be doing this, kind of thing. It's the same kind of thing here, where like, well, if the Israelis are Eastern Oriental barbarians with no respect for human life whatsoever outside of their own sect, then how come America does whatever they say then? Right? If they're not our great allies, how come we treat them like they are? How come we give them all the bombs to do what they're doing? They must be defending themselves from evil, barbarian, Muslim terrorist aggressors, right? It's kind of baked into the thing. And, their leader was educated in the United States. He speaks English with, hardly an accent at all.
Yeah.
And the leadership cast of the Israelis are virtually all European Jews. And so they're much whiter than the Palestinians they're killing, and can afford to wear nice Western style clothes and whatever. So people just assume like these are our guys, right? When in fact, Israel's nothing but a security threat to the United States in a direct way in all their espionage against the United States, but also in the way that they generate terrorism against us through their cruelty and the way that they treat their helpless Palestinian captives. And people should know, and they probably do know. I don't mean to like patronize or insult anyone who obviously gets it already, but I know they lie all day long about this to everybody else. And they try to make it confusing, and it's in the past been confusing to me. So to put it very clearly, even though there's such a thing as Palestinians, there is no country called Palestine because Israel's sitting on top of it. And so when we talk about the Palestinians, we're talking about essentially Israeli captives who are living on Indian reservations on the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. They're both under martial law, under the control, not even martial law, but foreign military occupation law. In the West Bank, they call it something more akin to an open air prison with the Palestinian Authority basically as trustees under Israeli authority, ruling over those people. Where in the Gaza Strip, there are no trustees. It's just an open air prison that's been taken over by the most powerful gang in the prison, Hamas. But the people are, Ben Shapiro and his clones are lying when they use these inapt analogies. They're deliberately misleading people and say, what would we do if Mexico was firing rockets across the border of the Rio Grande? But see, immediately baked into that, we're talking about the national government of Mexico and its standing army, right? Well, we know what we'd do in that circumstance. We'd send an ambassador, and then we'd start killing people if we had to. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is an Indian reservation where would have America surrounded the Navajo with giant concrete walls and then bombed them all the time and stole the last bit of their water resources and everything that they needed to survive. And then a few of them broke out of their pen and scalped some, Anglos in, downtown Phoenix or wherever. Then we went and carpet bombed the place for 3 years and killed 80,000 of them. You understand? It's like we're talking about a canned hunt. We're talking about fish in a barrel. We're not talking about Palestine is the country next door and Israel is at war with it. The Palestinians are captives in Israeli prison. This is like Nelson Rockefeller attacking Attica. Okay? It's not a war. It's a slaughter. It's a genocide. And it truly is meant to eradicate the Palestinian society out of the Gaza Strip. They're razing entire cities to the ground. Gaza City, Rafah, and Khan Yunis are essentially completely destroyed. And they've deliberately targeted all the schools, all the universities, all the hospitals, and all the government offices where you would have land records or family history, records or any of these things. They're deliberately eradicating their society so that they can then force them to voluntarily emigrate when living there becomes absolutely impossible. And that's their avowed and stated goal. And all of it is absolutely criminal under the Geneva Conventions and under American law. That our government is helping with this project at all. If this is no different than if the Chinese communists were doing this in outer Mongolia, it would be an absolute outrage. And yet we're helping the Israelis do it to the people of Palestine.
Yeah, everything you said I totally agree with, but I am an anti-war libertarian and I look at things from a natural human rights perspective and property rights and all the great beautiful things that flow out of such a legal structure or perspective. And I wonder sometimes why your arguments and Dave's arguments and people who think these wars are just awful, I see them just glance off at people sometimes, and I think I know why, at least in part. I think a whole ton of people think they're getting sort of propagandized by both sides, and they never knew the history very well to begin with, and so they find it all confusing and horrible. So I think in their minds, in the moral center of their minds, they just retreat to, well, I guess maybe this is just a clash of civilizations, and theirs sucks and ours is better, so to heck with them.
Yeah.
And I think
No, that's part true. But you know what? I remember seeing on Twitter, somebody said once, it was just a coincidence. I even saw this. I don't even know if it was someone I follow or what, but someone had asked, has anyone ever been convinced by an analogy?
Yeah.
And it was like stated defiantly, right? Like, I think analogies are stupid and they never convince anyone, was basically like the way it was stated, I think. And one guy responded and said, actually, Scott Horton convinced me about Palestine when I heard him explain that Gaza is an Indian reservation rather than the country next door. And then I went, oh, eureka. Now I understand who's occupying who over there. I get it. Before I didn't get it. Before it was muddy and now it's clear, kind of thing. So that's why I try to use that to break through, which is reality. I'm not being manipulative, but I'm trying to use that to add clarity to the thing so you understand who's occupying who. I've seen polls that say most Americans, I don't know if this is still true, but certainly was true like 10 years ago, where most Americans thought the Palestinians were occupying the Israelis. Poor little Israelis. And since that's all we ever hear, then I guess that must be true. There's a funny Louis C.K. bit where I won't do the whole thing or whatever, but he's just talking about the Palestinians are like, the Jews are killing us. And we're like, the Jews? Man, push them over. Like, what are you worried about? Like, Jews aren't scary, and over there they are, when you're living under their military occupation and they'd kill your kid for fun, and which they do, right? They go, oh, man, blood libel. How about a sniper blowing a 3-year-old's head off deliberately? Stop killing kids and we'll stop accusing you of killing kids.
Things are so hot over there. And technology, can go in any direction. And I look at the map of Israel surrounded by, Sunnis and Shias as far as the eye can see. And I just wonder, like 200 years from now, can Israel survive where it's at? Like that long?
All their nukes.
Well, that ain't surviving.
I mean, my thing is, this is stupid, I guess, right? Like, if you argue that, nope, look at the results. This is Zionism played out. I don't know what to tell you. Then I guess I'd have to concede. On the other hand, like, I don't know, man. I'm just an individualist. And the way I look at history is like a bunch of stupid men making bad decisions that could have gone the other way. Like Derek Cooper points out that after the 1967 war, David Ben-Gurion, the founding prime minister of Israel, said who was then out of power, said we should give up the West Bank and Gaza Strip. We don't want to keep this territory because it comes with all these people and we don't want them. What are we going to do with them all? We're going to have to enslave them. And then it's going to destroy everything that we're trying to build here. We should just let them go, man.
It's funny how
better to let them go, even at the cost of giving up the land that we just stole too. And they didn't listen to him.
It's funny how only hear stuff like that when the guy's out of power. Right. Why is that? Well, why is that? That's so weird.
In Camp David, they promised to do a 2-state solution. They punted for another decade and more. And then with the Oslo Accord, they again promised to do a 2-state solution. And they were lying all along, of course. The whole goal was just to keep devouring the West Bank, especially, but also the Gaza Strip, if they could get it, while pretending to negotiate. And of course, a Netanyahu fan murdered Yitzhak Rabin in 1995, and he was the only one who was legitimately willing to negotiate with Arafat. And they weren't even really talking about an actual nation state, but something like a 2-state solution where Palestinians, even the ones, living in refugee camps in Jordan and Syria or whatever, they couldn't go home. And there'd be a limited right of return, a few tens of thousands of people or something like that. But otherwise, the rest would be able to go home to a free and independent, prosperous West Bank and Gaza Strip as an independent state and pseudo state, but like pretty much one. And they would have had at least a decent Palestine to go back to, even if it wasn't their hometown, better than living in a refugee camp in Syria and getting bombed by Obama-ite, bin Ladenite suicide bombers later. So that could have been done. And I think, and what was Rabin's whole strategy? Look, we'll just deal with the Palestinians and then we can make peace with our neighbors. Now, Netanyahu's new Middle East is we'll just take everything we want from the Palestinians, crush them under our boot, and they won't be able to do anything. And then we can all get along with our neighbors and negotiate with our neighbors. And the American taxpayer will pay the bribes necessary to get these governments to go along with it. And I think that's just completely unsustainable when the populations of the region still care very much about the Palestinians and their fate. And absolutely, look at Osama bin Laden's war against the United States was probably half predicated on American support for Israel's crimes against the Palestinians and usurpation of all those holy sites and the rest, while, during the absolute spineless complicity of all of their kings going along with it and humiliating them all.
I'm not
attacking us in the first place. It's this kind of thing.
I'm not a blame the victim kind of guy at all, but it does cross my mind to wonder. It's been so long and it looks so hopeless. I'm wondering why more people haven't just shrugged their shoulders and said, yeah, this was my home and religious sites and whatever, but I'm just going to flee.
They can't. There's nowhere to go. They can't leave. And people always, Zionists always sound exactly like Adolf Hitler after the Evian conference, saying, yeah, that's because they're so disgusting, nobody wants them because they're all criminals and terrorists and whatever, which is like, quote, Adolf Hitler's quote about the Jews after Evian, when FDR and the rest refused to take the Jewish refugees. And it was just what you hear Zionists say about Palestinians all the time. So damn them, they're just like Adolf Hitler.
Well,
They
things
are
are pretty
literally
bad.
just like Hitler, but that's not what it is. It's those other Muslim countries don't want to lose control of the last of the holy sites. You know, it's not so much Gaza; it's the West Bank.
Right, that's what I
But
was saying.
if the Palestinians are driven all out of there, then but even leaving the West, even leaving the Gaza Strip, it still deprives the Palestinians of their overall numbers inside the Israeli state, and meaning potentially at least more pressure on the Israelis to give in to recognizing their civil rights in one form or another. Whereas if you reduce the Palestinian population of, you know, so-called Israel proper and all their annexed territories by the population of the Gaza Strip, 2 million, then you have now, instead of a kind of 50-50 split, now you have a solid Jewish majority over the Palestinian Arab population again. And so making it easier for them to continue to persecute them and deprive them of their rights in the West Bank. And so that's why they don't want to let them out. And of course, the Palestinians, many of them are just like, hell no, this is my grandfather's land, or you already drove me off of my grandfather's land. You're not going to drive me any further than this, and are willing to fight and die for it themselves. Now there are people, you know, regular civilians, when they're desperate enough, they'll flee, but they have the right to come back. And so even if they want to go now to Qatar or to Egypt or something like that, that doesn't mean they want to leave. That means they're being forced out by a occupying government that's killing them and deliberately starving them and torturing them. And so, you know, they're just in an absolutely impossible position. And we have seen over the years where, like, there'll be a special exception, especially for Palestinian Christians, to leave and come to Europe or the United States to get educated or whatever. Then they'll stay a lot of times. And so we've seen the Palestinian Christian population fall from, I think, like 15% to 6% or something like that. Their percentage of the Palestinians, because it's easier for them to get out. But so that's the thing is, and you know, again, we cover this at antiwar.com all the time, where they're constantly trying to negotiate to transfer the population to Libya or to Somaliland or to anywhere else that they can kick them out. If they could get away with it, they'd probably just drive them all into the Sinai Desert to burn in the sun and just kill them all.
Well, that is just depressing stuff, Scott.
I know. Israel's the worst government in the world by far. It's the most criminal regime in the world, and it's the worst thing about the United States of America.
You know, it's funny. I've been criticizing my government ever since someone put an Ayn Rand book in my hand. And when I criticize my own government, or I hear it criticized, you know, I never think reflexively, hey, what are you talking about? This is me. You're criticizing me. You know, I'm just not wired like that. But I think a lot of Jewish people, you know, not Zionists, just people, I think a ton of them hear Israeli government, and for some reason they think that's a reflection on me somehow, because it's the Jewish state or whatever, because World War II.
Because they call themselves that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the skater state. Now everything I do reflects on all skateboarders.
You got that? That's sweet.
But everybody knows that.
But it's a big psychological thing, and you know, it's a hurdle. It's something we got to try and get around or something, because keeps people from hearing you.
The thing is, on the left and on the right, there are plenty of Jews who are coming out completely opposed to this thing, along with everybody else too. And so, like, what more permission slip do you need?
Yeah.
I mean, and look, I don't know about everybody else, and I'm not even actually on Twitter right now myself, man, because I can't get my other jobs done if I'm just ranting about Israel on Twitter all damn day. But for people who are on Twitter, I mean, just if you haven't, and if the algorithm isn't doing it for you, just type in Gaza and just go and look, bear witness, and see what they're doing to these people on a daily basis over there. I mean, I'm still not over Waco. And that's what they do to them every single day. Imagine Bill Clinton doing the Waco massacre and then doing it again and again and again and again and again for years. I mean, it's the sickest thing in the world, dude. They're killing kids on purpose over there. All that cognitive dissonance about, well, nah, they wouldn't do that because they're friends of ours and all that is wrong. This is essentially a barbarian civilization, like if we were talking about Bhutan, where one tribe murders the other tribe. That's it, right? Like the Vietnamese versus the Hmong. The women and children go too. That's it. You wipe them out. That's what they're doing. They're Orientals. They're not from the West, and they don't believe in Western values at all. They're completely and diametrically opposed to them. And look at what they do. They deliberately kill children every single day. They starve them, then they lure them in with promises of aid, and then they machine gun them and bomb them with artillery. And that's on the front pages of Haaretz. They have military officers admitting it. They say Hamas uses human shields. They actually have an official thing called the Mosquito Protocol, where they force Palestinian civilians, not Hamas captives, men, women, and children, and the elderly, and force them to go into buildings and go and dig through the rubble to clear it for them in case there's booby traps. A senior Army officer told Haaretz that he called this a sub-army of Palestinian slaves and said every brigade has one. Every or team or whatever, division of guys out there. Every group has one. And they force these Palestinian men, women, and children to clear buildings for them.
Have we heard any of these? Have we heard any of these stories in major media here in this country?
No, but you can read it in Israeli media in English daily, and you can read it at antiwar.com.
And people should, but it's curious. I mean, it strikes me as queer. Why isn't anybody reporting on this out of there?
And by the way, if people aren't familiar with us, we don't traffic in I heard somewhere stuff. Antiwar.com is only thoroughly vetted real journalism, and that doesn't mean towing the party line. It just means careful and virtually guaranteed to be right. We very rarely make corrections because we don't have to.
Yeah, antiwar.com is an amazing resource. I'm glad you plugged that. I'd like you to plug your books again and the Libertarian Institute again, and you have your own Dashboard University popping out here real soon, right?
Yeah, man. So the Institute is libertarianinstitute.org. My books are Fool's Errand about Afghanistan, Enough Already about the terror wars in the Middle East, and Provoked about the Cold War with Russia and the Ukraine war. And then, check out my recent interview with Tucker Carlson. And I got a brand new show called Provoked, which is the #1 new podcast on Apple with Daryl Cooper, Martyr Maid. Our 4th episode comes out tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And yes, I am working on the Scott Horton Academy. We've made major progress on the thing. It's just like Tom Woods' Liberty Classroom, only different. And it's me doing a, 30-hour lecture on the Middle East. And then I'm about 25 hours into what looks like it's going to be about a 50-hour lecture on the Cold War with Russia, something like that. I don't know. And then
50? I'll take the over.
Yeah, something like that.
Give me the over right now.
Right. Yeah, it could be. It could be. I got Bovard on 40 years of investigative journalism. I got Ramsey Baroud on Palestine. I've got Bill Bupert on how America lost every war since 1945. And I got C.J. Kilmer on how Woodrow Wilson was the worst person who ever lived. And these are all going to be long form, at least like 8-hour courses. Mine are obviously going to be on the complete overkill, walking you through my books. But the others are going to be somewhere around 6 to 8 hour long courses by these guys. And it's going to be worth every penny, believe me. And people just go to scotthortonacademy.com and sign up, put your email address in there. And so you'll be the first to know when we go live, which I hope will be next month.
Oh, that's
we keep
awesome.
Kicking the can down the road because there's a lot to it, but we're getting it together here.
That's awesome. Amen to all of that. I can't wait. And especially to your appearance on Tucker Carlson. You were really on your game with that one.
There you go. See, I got the logo on my mic here. It's a little crooked because I have to have my mic set wrong on this crane, but whatever. Anyway, there's my crooked logo. It's at scotthortonacademy.com.
I can't wait. That sounds great. Scott, thank you so much for coming on. It's always awesome to talk to you.
Oh yeah, likewise.
And yeah, invite me on your show. I'll tell you all about that crazy Navy story.
Maybe. It's a great story.
I don't know who it's for, but it's pretty funny. All right, man. Thank you, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.